sea level is rising. You need a lot of data to show that something is changing, whether it's natural or not. What we're doing here is measuring beach erosion at the southern Rhode Island coast. It's probably one of the longest data sets of its kind. They've been doing it continuously since the mid-60s. It's funded by the state. It's really important to get as much data as you can and to really look at how things change on a decadal scale. The beach changes a lot every year. You get annual variations, but when you look at it over a half century, then you can really get an idea of the major changes. And we also do 8 different beaches along the entire coast, so we could get a feel for how the entire southern coastline of Rhode Island has been changing.
Oh yeah, let's start rolling. Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's just ignore the camps.
Before this class even began, what were we thinking? We had this giant list in front of us, and what happened? How did this class evolve?
Well, I remember we were originally planning on doing something along the lines of climate change or wind energy.
Right, yeah.
And
Block Island, yeah.
Yeah, and as we listened to the geologists who came and visited our classroom, we decided to take into account erosion and storms.
I think that come the next hurricane, there can definitely be plenty more shots being done, plenty more information coming in, but I think for at least this small project that we did for the semester, we were pretty good.
I want to talk about the hurricane that's likely headed our way. And the image I have up here now shows you the satellite picture from just a couple of hours ago, taken from space. And as you can see, Hurricane Sandy is out there, west of Florida, north of Cuba, kind of turning, making a mess of the Bahamas. But where is it going? That's the question. And the really interesting thing for us is the National Hurricane Center has just forecast that it's going to come up parallel the U.S. coast, and it's going to take a left-hand turn and come into the bite that New Jersey and Maryland make. So New Jersey is actually where the landfall would be, forecast for 8 a.m. on Tuesday right now.
Hi, everyone's Mark Searles with you on Turn210.com. All right, so as we turn our attention to the tropics, this, of course, is Sandy. Let's get it just a little bit tighter on the storm there, and you can see the eye. Look at that, nice defined eye making landfall.
Most of the population lives on the coast anyway, and I don't think that's going to change just because massive storms come in. If 1,000 people get injured or die from this, I mean, I still think that there's going to be thousands more living on the coast.
Well, I agree with you. It's just like a day at the beach. As soon as high tide comes in, everybody moves back. And I think that's what's going to keep on happening.
The towels will get a little bit wet.
Right. We're going to see houses just keep on moving back as the coastline recedes, but people still want that real estate on the coast. I don't think that's going to change.
Overall, sea level is rising. It has risen since the 60s, probably around at the maximum 2 centimeters, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's an exponential rise, or at least it has been. I think some of the highest estimates for the East Coast can be up to 8 centimeters in the next 100 years, which can really have an adverse effect on basically the stability. You wouldn't have the same sort of morphology that you have now. You would lose your dune systems, you'd lose a lot of the wildlife that depends on the beach here in the way that it is in a stable environment now. And if the sea level is rising at a rate that is too great for the dune system to keep up, then there's going to be a lot of adverse effects, especially for the biology of the area. Yeah, so we just got a core at Quaney Pond.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm really excited to take a
Anything
look
cool
at
in it?
Yeah, a lot of hurricane layers.
Nice.
When you get a hurricane like Sandy or something, you get these sand layers that are marker beds and basically represent a single moment in time versus the big mud deposition, which happens at a really slow rate. Part of what we do is to educate people on the beach on what's happening, because not everybody knows. And with these long data sets and the ability to come out here and collect data, it gives us a unique opportunity to present it to the public in a way that they can understand and really grasp. We use this data and show them different profiles from different times of the year, dig a trench and show them some of the layers that the beach create as it builds up or comes down.
Climate change, I personally feel that it's an anthropogenic thing. Burning fossil fuels is warming the planet, and we have to develop better habits as citizens of this earth.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Storm Team 10 meteorologist Gary Lay. Let me bring you up to date on Sandy. Forecast track taking it rapidly toward the coast this evening. Power outage is likely. I'm concerned about that coastal flooding 8:23 this evening. And of course, we're going to have a lot of beach erosion as well.
Being out in the field is such a different experience than being told to do it or just reading it from a book.
Right.
You know, we all got our cameras out there. We got to shoot whatever we felt was necessary. You know, all of our images have a different voice because we have different, you know, mindsets. But as far as this course goes, it gave us the perfect opportunity to really get out there, exercise our skills, and find those locations that really mean something to us.
We are measuring beach erosion.
This is part of my research looking at the relationship of the last high tide, and also we're looking at beach erosion and accretion, looking at beach profiles from week to week and seeing a long-term trend. So these houses that you see here, they're perched on what's left of the beach. There's not much left at this point. I have seen pictures of the beach much further seaward, so at one point these were wonderfully placed houses. So they're on the historical list, I believe, so they're not really allowed to be taken down officially. Some have moved, and they're just trying to preserve the life of them as long as they can.
I think it was Boothroyd who told us that there was a guy who was building a house in Matunic, and he just didn't care. I mean, remember he was fighting the DEM, and he just didn't care that they were telling him that it would get wiped out eventually because, you know, you have so much money.
Even going to Cards Pond, we saw a brand new
Remember that? Yeah, that's a good point.
Built, and it's just like, this place is going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
A little further east, where the ocean mist is, we have a couple of profiles there as well. Again, their beach used to be much more seaward than it is now, so it was a great location. Still is a great location. They're just getting a little precarious. The deck, some of the pilings, the building itself, you know, they might sort of undermine their competence a little bit. I'd say that, you know, that's the other sort of hot topic right now, hot area. I would imagine that they're paying close attention to the track and where it's going to make landfall. We're actually preparing for it. We're here doing the before scenario. We're hitting as many profiles as we can along the South Shore, and we're going to go out as soon as it's safe on Tuesday morning to see the after effects.
Obviously, everybody is aware at this point that this is going to be a big and powerful storm. And all across the eastern seaboard, I think everybody is taking the appropriate preparations.
What I want to talk about now is the storm surge. Now, storm surge is technically it's the abnormal rise of water generated by a storm over and above the regular astronomical tide. And the storm surge, historically, is what caused deaths with hurricanes. So this is why people died in hurricanes when they didn't have a forecast, because they didn't know that they had to evacuate. And when that storm surge starts coming, it's too late to evacuate. And when those winds start blowing and they come before the surge, you don't want to go outside. You think, well, I'm going to go inside and stay put. But then that surge comes along and wipes out the people right on the coast. And when you feel the winds, when it gets to be tropical storm force winds out there, it's too late to evacuate. Set yourself up to be as safe as possible, and if you want to go film something, film, you know, so that you're safe, but film the best thing you can get.
Hey everyone, Storm Team 10 meteorologist Mark Searles with you here. Quick update on turn210.com. I think we're looking at landfall from Hurricane Sandy across the southern New Jersey coastline within a matter of a couple of hours. It should be before the 6 o'clock time frame this evening. Wind gusts in southern New Jersey really picking up between 50 and 65 miles an hour, but they're comparable to what we've been seeing here in southern New England.
all day officials have been telling people, stay inside, don't go outside. And this right here is the reason why.
So if you have enough flooding to get this water up to the subway tunnels and up to the manholes that provide electricity and telephone wires and sewer and everything else, the water's just going to flood into it. It's going to be like, all right, downhill, and it's just going to fill it up. So you can easily wipe out the subway in New York City, cut the electricity.
Hurricane Sandy barreled into the Northeast Monday night, the storm still delivering a ferocious blow as it came ashore. By all accounts, Sandy is a monster storm. At its peak, extending 700 miles wide with hurricane force winds stretching out 175 miles from the center.
Oh my god.
Should I not? Are you filming?
No, keep going, I'm filming.
I think there's a cop behind me.
Is there really?
What is that? No, it's not.
God, we're gonna get arrested making this.
From the air, the scope and extent of the damage Hurricane Sandy left in the ocean state is easy to see. From Aquidneck to Narragansett, Mesquamaket to Matunic, damaged businesses, homes, and streets dot the coastline. Many asphalt parking lots and roads now crumbling from the constant battering of the Atlantic. Beach houses reduced to scrap and splinters, roads covered with salt water and impassable.
Look at this house is blown right off of the foundation. Yeah.
In this exclusive access, you can see the wreckage strewn about. Chairs, refrigerators, and plenty of wood. The result of the oceanfront homes on this narrow strip of sand being battered by the overwhelming surf.
As we've seen from, aerial shots of Rhode Island, complete communities were wiped out.
In terms of like climate change and stuff like that, everything happens very slowly. So it's kind of like an interesting way to almost preview what could happen, basically.
Yeah, and also thinking about like when we did the interview with Cam and he was doing surveying, it was just like, oh yeah, it changes every year, it gradually changes, but then after the storm, apparently, Charlestown Beach was totally like wiped out. He's gonna have to start all over again.
I heard you took the kids, your students, out to South Kingstown?
Yeah, South Kingstown Town Beach is a couple miles down the road. Yeah, I was surprised at the devastation after Sandy. Really sad. It's mostly summer homes, cottages and stuff, and all along the beachfront, just houses sideways, houses falling off the foundations.
What were the students' reactions to that?
They got a chance to see firsthand destruction of that order of magnitude. But it was kind of a solemn experience, because these are people's homes that were destroyed, fallen in, and it's kind of like how you can't help but watch a train wreck.
I know.
It's
so sad.
Yeah.
We have GPS.
The GPS shows that we're on top of our station. And it was just a matter of looking at the record of where the stations used to be and where they've been historically, and just finding the GPS coordinate.
Learning a lecture is different from actually seeing it, because you're just like reading it and you're like, oh, okay. And it didn't really affect you, but then when we did the before and we're like, oh, it's really nice, and then 5 days later we went back and did the after, it just hits you more.
As far as coverage goes, we really captured a lot. And I don't think we'd have that same appreciation for the after part if we didn't have the before part.
Definitely.
When we went on that, those days before the storm, my appreciation for these places has definitely gained immensely.
Hi everyone, Storm Team 10 meteorologist Mark Searles with you on TurnTo10.com. More of the news story now, of course, with the cleanup and the damage, and the pictures are just breathtaking, overwhelming, terribly sad in some cases with the loss along the south coast. And here's a look at the forecast now as we turn our attention away from Sandy's, at least the forecast